Mexico statute.
So we're one of the counties and municipalities that doesn't have a,
So we have operators, we just don't have the number and the level that we need. And we are not the only system that doesn't, there are several systems that don't have any certified operators. We do have certified operators, but not of the level that we need. We require a couple of fours, at least 2 fours. And then it's good to have some 3s, some 2s, and some 1s. So currently we have 2 level 2s at the water treatment plant, and 1 level 1 and 2 uncertified.
no level 3s.
Not at the water treatment plant. We also have, okay, so we also have, and I'll choose a 2. Okay. So we do have a level 3 and a level 2 at distribution, but those also require levels. And so the distribution system is managed by Travis. He has the correct certification level to be able to run his system.
Who is the watch guard who's looking over you to make sure that you get somebody in place eventually? Who do you report?
So we answer to the state of New Mexico's environment department. That's who we coordinate with. That's who is well aware of the levels that we have and the people that we have running managing the system. We're in regular communication. We report to them every month with specific reports. We report to them every day that there's an issue. And whenever there's an issue, there's a regular conversation that's happening while we're trying to solve that issue. So my staff, which include our consultants, are talking to the environment department at least once a week, if not more.
Oh, it's such a big health issue. It could become, if you didn't have somebody checking on a constant basis.
So what we have to maintain the health issues, we have regular reporting that's required. We have constant data loggers that are logging the critical things such as turbidity and chlorine residual. Our system shuts down if we start to exceed the turbidity levels, or if we don't reach the residual level, our system will automatically shut down. But in addition to having an automated system, you have to have people who have experience and the ability to do an analysis and determine, okay, how do we fix this? Find that the system shut down. Now we need to know why the system shut down, what we need to do to get it back online, and then report to the state. And we're always reporting to the state everything that is happening. So it's possible to run a system with someone who doesn't have a level 4, but you're not guaranteed to have that experience and the assessment ability. But the state does require. So even though maybe somebody who's a level 1 or a level 2 could technically make decisions, that's a violation. And that person will lose their certification if they're operating outside of their area of certification.
How does it influence the city?
Pardon?
The city.
So as I'm going to report in this, let me go through the report by answer several of your questions. So as we're going through this, to maintain our requirements for the state of New Mexico, we hired a consultant, somebody who does come in with those certification levels. And again, that's where $545,000 on average per year is spent at the water treatment plant, and $280,000 per year is spent at the wastewater treatment plant to maintain those requirements and have somebody available to meet the requirements in the state. That one of the benefits of this contract has been that we have a pool of people to pick from. So there have been emergency situations, whether it's during fire, or whether when we had an extended power outage, or when we had one employee sick, one employee injured, I think another employee was sick, to the point where we had one staff member at the wastewater plant. We were able to bring in people from our consultant's office. So we had that flexibility. We've had upwards of 7 people from Sauter Miller at the water treatment plant and upwards of 9 people at the wastewater treatment plant on any given day. Usually that many, it's usually to deal with an emergency. It's because there's too much stuff going on for 1 or 2 people to handle, so we bring in 4 people. Because when there's a power outage at the wastewater plant, gravity still feeds the sewage through the system, and if you don't do something, we're going to start overtopping the basins, we're going to start overtopping the system, and then we're going to end up discharging to the roadway, which ends up discharging to the river. So it's not something that 1 or 2 people can handle. That's when we have a large number. Or the other time we had a larger number come in was when we were setting this up, and we needed to make sure that all of our permits records, reports were all in line, and so we had a large group come in and basically do an analysis of the system. And so that's been one of the benefits, is being able to have that depth that we can pull from as we need it, but we don't have to have it there every day. The negatives are the cost. Because of the cost, we can't spend that money that we're spending on these technicians and these operators. We can't spend it on operations and maintenance or maintenance. We can't. It's operations we're spending it on, but we're not able to spend it on maintenance. So there's a big negative and a big positive. But if we hadn't have done this, we would definitely have not been in compliance. We definitely would have violated. And having experienced the last several years, I can say there were many situations where if we didn't have somebody there to make quick decisions, we would have had a lot more violations.
So Suttermeyer has been under contract now for about 4 years?
They're finishing up their 4 years right now when we started another 4-year contract.
Oh, you can start another, and they're okay with that?
They've actually, they run, let me see, I think they contribute at Espanola, San Pablo, House, in addition to Las Vegas. So they're contributing at other facilities. They have good experience here. They know our system well. So I think that gives them a leg up. But they were the only ones that responded to the proposal. You guys already concurred with the proposal. We already awarded that, that proposal. But now what we're looking at, and what we were looking at before, this is not something new. For the last 4 years, we've been looking at how do we get ourselves out of this. I don't want to be spending, $700,000, $800,000 a year of city funds on contracted staff. But that's what we're doing, and we're doing that to maintain compliance. But what we're and the purpose of this report that the council asked is, what are we doing to get out of it? What are we doing to go forward? And so the big things that we've done is our advertising. So we've got advertising, pay, and training are really the 3 areas that we're looking at. So for advertising, we've gone above and beyond what normal advertising is for the city of Las Vegas. Whenever we post any position here, it's posted on the city's website, and that's pretty much where it ends. With the water system, we send all of our vacant positions to the New Mexico Rural Water Association, Utility Operator Certification Program, and they used to have 2 different locations for posting, and now they've combined their job postings. But we are posted with them. We do advertise with them. We advertise with the Municipal League. We advertise with the New Mexico Water Wastewater Association. We do put it on the city's website, and we have the biggest change we made is we're now posting not necessarily in the Optic, but the Optic is part of the O'Rourke Communications. I know it's O'Rourke. I'm not sure if it's communications, but they own the Optic, and they are nationwide. And so what we've done is we've advertised with them nationwide. It is costing us $399 per position per month. And it is more like another job site where you can get on it electronically, you can get on it through the internet, you can apply electronically. And so we've gone outside of the state of New Mexico, and we've done it before, but this time we've gone outside with pretty much a nationwide advertising firm. That their job is to post job positions that are available and make sure that they're linked, whether to Google or whether to LinkedIn or whether to some of the other entities that are job posting companies. And so they do get their jobs to be connected with these other well-known apps.
In terms of, so Suttermeyer does have employees. Suttermeyer has employees, and they probably know where to go searching for.
So they're actually in a similar position. They're regularly trying to hire for themselves as well. So they've also posted nationwide. But honestly, the difference between a municipal government and a corporation is corporation does probably pay higher than its own wages. So if somebody has a choice between the difference is working at Southern Miller means you can be sent anywhere, and working for the city means you're going to work for the city. But the city also has different benefits, so there's benefits to being able to work directly for municipal government. But we are all, and when I say all municipal governments, all water authorities, and all companies that do what Southern Miller does, we're all looking for the same pot of people.
No bonuses? The same?
The advantage is that you have a retirement if you work for a public entity that's the only.
Okay.
That's the biggest difference.
Like Sutter,
If you go to work for Southern Miller, you can buy a 401k and take your chances with that.
And you probably get health insurance and.
It's just like any other company, it's the health insurance program that you choose to buy.
What I'm
And
saying-
I can't speak for their
No.
benefits package, but, private companies do also have benefits package, but they are different than this government.
Well, the reason I brought up bonuses is because even in teaching, in some of the communities that can't attract teachers are offering signs.
So that's actually, so what I want to talk about, then I'm going to cover under pay.
Okay.
So we are advertising another place where we advertise, and again, I want to talk that we've already been doing this. The thing we added was the O'Rourke/optic advertising. We also supply our job announcements to Dona Ana County Community College in Santa Fe. Those two, Dona Ana has the foremost water education program in the state of New Mexico. Santa Fe also has one. Santa Fe's is not quite to the same level as Dona Ana County's, but it's good. They have not been, I don't think they've been having classes for a while after COVID. My understanding is they're getting ready in the fall to start back up again. So we're still making all of our job announcements available, and we want to work with them, possibly with interns because of the proximity of Santa Fe to Las Vegas. So those were really looking for people who have made a choice to go and get educated in the field and then get a job afterwards, because it's not really easy to take the people that we already have because we're extremely limited. Like yesterday I think we only had 2 or 3 there. I think today we have maybe 3 at work. And there's a lot for only 3 people to do. And so if they were to take half the day and drive to Santa Fe to take the class, there's a lot of critical work that has to be done, and we couldn't afford to part with them. And I'll get down to some stuff in the training about that. So we do make them available, and we do want to work with these schools on internships. Obviously, Santa Fe is going to be more close than Dona County for internships. Pay. So pay originally was a similar pay plan to everything else in the city of Las Vegas. We did a pay scale adjustment in accordance with the American Water Works Association pay rate study. They do an annual pay rate survey where they will look at water and wastewater operators and support staff all across the United States. We'll take this region and we'll look at Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona. And so we took that pay study and adjusted the pay scale so that it matched that recommendation for our region.
Yes.
And so the positions that we have posted are based on that pay scale. So they'll start out at $15 an hour. In addition to increasing the pay commensurate with the position, we've also previously have been offering 4% bonuses for people to get certifications. So we're looking at 2 things. 1, we want to build from within. 2, because of the number that we're lacking, almost 13, I think it's 13 positions we posted. We're going to have to bring in from the outside as well. We can't just promote everybody from within because all we're doing is taking from Peter to pay Paul. So we really need to bring people in from the outside and build up from within. So right now we have a 4% bonus for certifications. So as people do get their level 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s, we are giving them incentives with 4% plus the ability to promote into a higher level.
And those are based on experience?
The certifications, the positions,
Well, I'm saying that if you're promoting from within, it's based on experience because you can't get them to training because they can't take off, right?
you're right. So a lot of the training somebody gets within the city, if they can't go to Santa Fe,
It's hands-on.
one of the sources is the training that they receive here, the hands-on training from learning our system.
Right.
The challenge is that it's only our system, and the test is going to be based on systems available. So there may be things that, for instance, we're blessed here because we have a well system, we have groundwater and surface water.
Mhm.
So for those folks working in the water distribution or water treatment, they get a little experience on both sides, pumps, motors, mixers, as well as wells and surface water and the challenges with each different water source. There's a lot of communities that don't have wells or don't have surface water, and so they all go take the same test. So if you're a community that only operates out the well, you're gonna have a hard time with surface water. If you're a surface water community, you're gonna have a hard time with wells. We're both. So what a lot of people will learn if they want to is a lot of good information. But it's not just what you do every day, because there's so much to learn that the operators need to take personal time and spend some time after hours or on their lunch breaks educating themselves, reading through manuals, reading through books, having magazines from associations, American Water Wastewater Association, and educating themselves. And that's almost everybody who has moved up, if not everybody who has moved up to their levels 2, 3s, and 4s. If you ask them, I guarantee they'll say they spent some time reading a book on their own time, reading a manual on their own time, reading a story, doing some of their own research on their own time. Because you cannot learn everything in an 8-hour day while also doing your regular job. Because you're going to do a lot of repetitive stuff. It's the morning walkthroughs, plus dealing with whatever situation's going on, plus backwashes, plus reading piezometers, plus landscaping. I mean, there's a lot of also regular maintenance that has to be done on vehicles and the facility. And there may be things you're not learning because it's not at our facility.
So Guayana and Santa Fe Community don't have any virtual classes.
I believe they did during COVID, but that was for their existing students. And I'll get that down to training, what virtual training we do offer. But on the pay side, what I'd like to do is the proposal is I want to get away from the 4% bonus. The 4% bonus is based on the employee's current pay. So if I was to, just as an example, not that I would do this, but let's say I got a certification, I got level 1 something, and another employee that was starting out got a level 1, because my pay is different than their pay, my bonus for getting that level is different than their bonus. And it really should be commensurate, equal. So relatively equal. So if someone gets a level 1, it doesn't matter if they've been here 1 year or 10 years. If they get a level 1, they should get X pay increase. A level 2 is worth something, a level 3, and a level 4, as you go up the ladder, it should be more valuable. It is more valuable to the city, and we should be able to express that to the employee. So if Travis gets a level 4, when Travis gets a level 4, and when somebody else gets a level 4, even if their pays are different, they should both get the same increase in their salary because of earning that level. And so one of the things is, this is a proposal right now, is to switch our compensation based on certifications from 4% to a flat rate. And I have that here for, as an example, sample taking collections, maybe 50 cents an hour, collections 2, 75, collections 2, wastewater and water 2, or water 1, 75, lab techs, water operator 2s and wastewater 2s, maybe $1, and then $1.50 for the level 3s area. And then by the time you get to a level 4, maybe $2 an hour. And again, these are proposals. So those numbers may be different, and what we assign it to may also be. But we're looking at, and that's again for promoting from within. How do we encourage people to move from no certification through the chain up to level 4?
Can I interrupt you for just a second? On the issue of, because of the seriousness of our water situation, we've had to use FEMA monies and been through a while prior, and all the stuff all the stuff that comes with that in terms of nuances. How would you? What can't we not offer them? Can the FEMA money cannot be used for salaries for these supplies?
So remember, a salary is going to be a recurring fee. So FEMA's never going to give us a recurring.
But I understand that, but I'm saying if you could get some trained individuals at a better salary in the meantime,
right,
then you'd be stuck with that salary ongoing, is what you're saying.
Correct. So we can't really assign it to FEMA, but we've already made the decision to increase the salary. So the salaries have increased across the board for every position that we need.
Except the opening, you said $15, that's minimum wage, isn't it?
15 is minimum wage. Right now, we're at 12, 11.50 or 12, minimum wage for everybody else. So we're $3 an hour higher for water and wastewater operators.
Oh, so when does minimum wage come in as 15? It doesn't?
For the water and wastewater operators,
Yes, for wastewater and water.
and that's
But for the state, what is the minimum
12.
wage? 12?
11.50 or 12.
Oh, I thought it was 15.
Not
That's
yet,
what I was saying. We were going to come in for 15.
not yet. But
So
Getting there.
water and wastewater operators, technical positions should have a higher starting wage than a
Yes.
non-technical position. That's where we're looking at bringing them in at a higher level. And again, we use the rate survey. We didn't just pick the numbers, we used the rate survey to give us some guidance on that. But that, again, those are helping us promote from within. We can't do this just by promoting from within. We are going to have to bring people in from the outside. So that's where we want to do the incentives for hiring. We want to propose, I want to propose, and I did talk to the city manager about this, we need to propose about incentives for people to move here from another state.
Is this your proposal?
This is,
More or less?
right now, I'm giving a report to the council of what we're doing and what we would like to do. So, as the council gives us feedback and they say, we like that idea, we don't like that idea, then the city manager makes it happen and we do whatever we need to do.
I think
So-
you're really looking at a more fair way of compensating
With
people
the, yes.
who need to get in.
And those are the two things we need to make sure that we're acknowledging and compensating those who are already here, who've been carrying
Yeah,
the load.
don't them.
But we need to bring in from the outside. We'll never do this just the 4 or 5 folks that we have in the treatment plant. Even if all of them move up, there's too much work for just 4 or 5 people to do. Right now, we have consultants doing the monthly reports and the filter profiles, and we have annual reports that I do because they don't have time to do it. And they have a lot on their plate. I mean, Travis's crew, there's a lot of stuff that he has been wanting to do, and he just doesn't have the people to do it. And so there's things that get deferred, delayed, or just not done. And there's going to come a time when we got to stop doing that. But we can't stop unless we have the people to do it. Otherwise, we're going to burn out the crew that we have, and then we're going to even be in a worse situation. So advertising and pay are the 2 things that we're already doing. We're working on advertising. We've already increased pay, and then we want to look at hiring incentives for people coming in from the outside. But we do have rules within finance, and that we have to follow. And so these proposals will have to be run through finance. We need to make sure we get the blessing of council where appropriate, and that what we're doing has a definitive plan to it. How do we make sure we pay for it? We can't commit to anything we can't pay for. And is there an end date to this? Like after we get a certain number of people, will we stop the incentive? Which financially, if we get fully staffed, we would stop certain incentives. I would never stop the bonus for certifications because that's always a carrot for staff to improve themselves. Even if we end up having everybody level 4s, that's better than where we're at right now.
Mhm.
So I'd rather give everybody bonuses all the way up to level 4s and have 10 level 4s. Much better than having none. But pay works when you have people to pay. Advertising works when you have people to advertise to. If there's nobody paying attention to advertising, nobody that wants to come in, it becomes a challenge. And then that's where we can really only go from within. And that's where the training comes in. So the training it's day-to-day work. As Travis's guys are learning how to use particular equipment, and he's got a pretty experienced crew now. They've been around for a while. They know how to use a lot of the tools and equipment. And even the guys at the water treatment plant have been around for a while. They're learning stuff. But they don't learn everything until an accident happens, an incident happens, a water quality issue happens, and they learn through experience. So this is the opportunity they already have. New Mexico Water and Wastewater Association offers schools 3 times a year. They are available to everybody in the water field and the wastewater field. We pay for those classes. They also offer workshops 6 times a year. Same thing. Everybody is available. Beginning of the year, everybody gets the calendar. This is the calendar. Everybody gets the calendar, and they can work with their manager and with their supervisor to see, which one's close. Albuquerque, better than sending them to Farmington. But we get Las Cruces, Espanola, Rio del Sol, Roswell, Albuquerque, Espanola again, Los Lunas, and Farmington. So they'll work with their managers and say, I'd like to go to this class. And the managers and supervisors do what they can to make things work out, make sure that there's enough staff still available while they're gone that week.
So I didn't see the word mandatory. It's not.
So mandatory
The workshops.
Mandatory becomes a bit of a challenge because there are a lot of people that absolutely do not want to put any time into this, and they will go and they'll skip the classes. They'll go hang out somewhere. We have no accountability unless somebody else is with them there. Because they're going off on their own. I'm sending I'm sending an employee to Albuquerque. And you will hear the stories of people going to Albuquerque and they don't spend they may sit in the class, and they may doze off. They don't want to be there. They just want the week off. And that's not what we're looking for. So when you start making it mandatory and it's an away trip, you're setting yourself up to sending people away on a 1-week vacation. The mandatory training is here. So the managers will set aside time to go over certain trainings. It could be on mornings or a job. It could be on Fridays. I know wastewater treatment plant tries to set some stuff up on Fridays. So the mandatory stuff is here. You cannot force people. First of all, the other thing is you can't force people to go to something that's not within the work hour. Okay, they have to agree to take it to drive somewhere and be gone for a week. And again, some people want to do it because they want to get away from work for a week. Other people are like, I don't want to be away from that family. And so you cannot, I can't force people to do things outside of the job unless it's like within their scope of work, like on call needs to respond to a water leak.
Yeah.
Okay, but somebody who's not on call, can't force them to respond to the water leak. They don't answer the phone, they don't answer the phone. Can't go grab by the ear and force them to go. So, okay, back when you were there, that was appropriate, but nowadays, that's not something. So it's, and you're also not looking, that's not who we want to promote. I don't want to promote somebody who must be forced to do something. We're looking at people who say, I want to learn this system, be the best operator I can be, and you get those. 1 out of every 100, you get it. But you gotta find that 1 out of every 100. So in addition to the New Mexico Water and Wastewater Association training that we offer, these are opportunities, we also offer the Sacramento Online Program. This is out of Sacramento, California. That is probably the foremost program in the country. It's $175 for a 6-month college level course. We'll pay for that. Pay for the book, pay for the class, but you're gonna have to put some personal time into it. I don't know of any other profession where everything you do, a profession, certification, special code of conduct, where they'll let you do it during your work hours, only during your work hours, and you don't have to put any personal time into it. If you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, anything that requires a certification, an electrician or a plumber, you're gonna have to spend some personal time. But we make those available, so it's no cost to the employee. Take that Sacramento online course, attend the New Mexico Water and Wastewater Association trainings. You can get the manual, and if you just read through the manuals and answer the questions in the back, you'll learn a lot from that. There's 4 or 6, there's like 6 water ones, maybe 4 wastewater ones, and each manual is about that. And we're talking old school manuals. So they're the big roach killers,
Right.
thick, with very thin pages. So this book is 1,000 pages. But in that, you have scenarios and questions. And if you answer them and you work through them, you will learn what you need. That's a self-motivated person. You take up the online course, you get a little bit of motivation from your instructor to say, hey, this thing by this date, and you get your certification. So there's different opportunities there. And then the AWWA has a water systems operation manual as well. But those are, again, self-taught. So we make the manuals available, we make the classes available, and the training opportunities are all made available. The next thing we're working on is additional training programs with Luna. So I have spoken with President Martinez and Vice President of Instruction this day out at Luna. And we're trying to put something together here so we don't have to have people go to Santa Fe or to Gwinnett County. And Gwinnett County has offered to help. Maybe if we can get some of their curriculum, some of their syllabus. We also have engineers and water specialists who volunteer to teach. So trying to work on a program, and it may start off as an unaccredited program, training, tech program, so we can get some high school students and also possibly work with our existing employees, as well as even having some of our existing employees test as instructors. When it starts out, it's going to be a voluntary thing. We want a voluntary student, and we need a voluntary instructor. It's not going to be something that people are going to get paid for, but we do have a lot of people that want to help. We have our engineers who volunteer to help out. Even sawmill staff who volunteer to help out. So that's the training. So just again, we want to work on advertising to get it out there, get it out to the widest group possible. We want to work on pay to make sure that we're paying properly, and we also have pay incentives. And we need to make sure that the training is there, not just the day-to-day training. If you get caught up in day-to-day work, you're learning something. But you're caught up in day-to-day work, so you might not have time to sit down and do some of the other aspects of earning your certification that are not quite something to deal with every day, every week, or sometimes even every year. back to your mandatory stuff, I do want to look at some mandatory training, but again, the mandatory training is going to have to be here. We're going to have to maybe set aside Fridays, or we already do that, but it's kind of haphazard. It's because when we have emergencies come up, work comes first. So training, so again, what we've already talked about is advertising, training. With the training, what is being taught here or what is being on your day-to-day work is not everything that you need to pass the test. And then let me go through this here for a second. So a water system operator technically can become a level 4 in 4 years. Okay? Each year, it takes about a year to get your level, or it takes 1 year before you're allowed to test for your level 1. After you get your level 1, you can pretty much test for your level 2 right away, and then your 3 right away. So within those 3, you can get those within probably 2.5 to 3 years. But you have to be a level 3 for 1 year before you can test for 4. So the quickest anybody can get all 4 levels is 4 years. That happens absolutely very rarely. Most people take 6 to 8 years, if not longer, to get to level 4. And the majority of people never get to level 4. The water operator pass rate for all tests across the board, 37.75%. So only just under 38% of those people taking all tests, 1 through 4, pass.
What's the incentive? They want.
It's going to be different. There's not as.
Well, let's say that I go from a level 1, $13 an hour to level 4. What am I shooting for?
You're looking at $1 to $2 an hour increase in pay for going to a higher level, and then maybe another 50 cents for actually earning that certification. So you're looking at a couple bucks, $1.50 to a couple bucks an hour. That's
I'll just stay at the $15. Just getting ready. But yeah, we need to. That's one of the areas where, and it's not your fault. I'm saying, if you have to look at the fiscal implications for the overall.
I think the incentive is that one person in 100 that you can find
Yeah.
that's really interested in learning it.
and
certainly
they do it
isn't
because they want to.
Because
Yes,
somebody wants to.
Yeah, but it certainly isn't the big.
and I'll tell you the gentleman the gentleman.
It's not, the pay's not gonna move you to do that. It's gonna have to be something you wanna do.
So that's what you have for 1 in the 100, because the rest, for $3, $2 an hour.
No, that money's not gonna move you.
No, it isn't. But it would if it was like $20 an hour more.
But it eventually can be.
So it depends on how high up the chain you're
Yeah.
going. So after right behind this, and let me finish this a little bit. So in addition to what is you're going to be taught by doing your job,
Yeah.
there are and what's on the test. There are numerous things that are not on the test. It requires someone with assessing capabilities, assessment of the situation, and taking everything they've learned and put together the solution. None of the answers to our questions are in a textbook. Every answer is something, it's unique to that situation. And so we have monthly reports on storage, production, filter, distribution, state engineers report, diversion, disinfectant, surface, and TOC reports. Every month they have to be able to do those. The person who's doing them now takes them almost a week for one person to do all those reports.
Mhm.
So, and they do that every month. So 1 week out of every month is pretty much dedicated to monthly reports. There's also annual reports, the AWWA, GPCE, and CCR that are due. Those you spend some time working on those. And these are things that are done after they do the walkthroughs, after they make sure the dosing is correct, after they order chemicals, after they've taken the piezometer reads. There are so many things these guys do every single day. And then you come in every day to do one thing, and when you show up, I'm going to use today as an example, you show up, receiving a phone call that there's water flowing down Highway 65, you show up to find your lagoons are all overflowing, your day just changed. Everything you were going to do today is now gone. Now you're turning the pumps on to try and get the levels down. Now you're calling the EPA because you just violated our permit because water left the lagoons, can't leave the lagoons through overtopping. You're walking through the system to find out why, where did all that water come from? And now, once you find out why, now you're having to make a decision to stop what's happening and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Now you're calling the state in addition to calling EPA, and you're calling me. And so your day just went from, I'm gonna do backwash and walk through isometers and order some chemicals, a nice 8-hour day to everything. You don't get lunch. Lunch is a luxury.
out today.
So that's, and you have to have that flexibility. And you have to go, okay, my day just changed, but the walkthrough still has to happen. The backwash still has to happen. The isometer still has to happen. All that stuff you were gonna do today, guess what? Still has to happen. And you have to figure out why water is flowing down out of the system.
So it's not all textbook.
No.
So
So like today, again, we now have, we got a brand new permit from the Environment Department, from EPA. And so they're reading through that permit because now they have to sample the water within a 24-hour period, and they have to send it off so they have to know what they have to sample. And we've actually, in the last 10 years, we've never had it overtopping. We actually thought about getting rid of this permit. We never used it. Well, today, we just violated it. So staff are going to be following the rules. It doesn't mean it's a catastrophe. It just means now the state says, okay, what water did you just discharge along the roadway, which by the way leads to the river. So basically they're saying, what water did you just put back into it? So they'll take some samples and they'll be able to report back whatever the results of those samples are. They have to communicate with a state compliance officer in addition to federal staff. Whenever there is a violation, they have to do PSAs in the optic, report those PSAs back to the state. So there's all this stuff. And if you don't know it has to happen and you've never done it before, you don't do it until you get another violation saying not only did you have a violation, but you didn't report the violation. So now there's 2 violations. You didn't put it in the optic, that's 3 violations. And so you don't want just anybody who's never experienced this running a system because they wouldn't know all this stuff. And then the filter profiles are something that we've been doing a lot with, and they're extremely time consuming. So in addition to everything that staff need to be able to do to be able to run a system, and everything that we're doing to try and to add staffing and make sure that we're meeting those requirements, so we don't have to have consultants. The state, this is a statewide issue. This is a nationwide issue. But these are the 2 things that the state is working on. One is a return from work bill. And that bill has been out there for a while. It's out there again. And the current language in the bill, and I'm just going to talk about the part that impacts water, is if this bill is passed, retirees would be eligible to come back to work for municipal government. They have to have been out of municipal government for a year. They can come back for up to 3 years without it impacting the retirement. So they can still collect their retirement pay and they can have a job. Up to 3 years. And I believe if I read it correctly, the employer and the employee would still have to pay into PERA, even though your PERA will not increase. That I believe was to address PERA's concern with not having, they want to make sure they have enough revenue coming in to continue to pay out for retirees. So I don't know everything behind it, but those are the stipulations. I don't know if it's going to pass or not. I do have a concern that I don't know how many people would move to the city of Las Vegas for a 3-year job. And I don't know how many people would respond to something like this. So, if you would be, I mean, he would be a candidate. He would actually be a candidate. He could still work.
Good, but I'm like 68.
But that's just as an example. If this passed, you would be a candidate who would be eligible to come back. The thing is, you don't have a certification, so your certifications are active, right?
Nope.
Okay, so he would have to get his certifications, and it's not easy. We did have a gentleman who came back, worked for Sauter Miller, tried to get a certification that was not able. So even though you had it at one point, you're not guaranteed to get it again. Then the other thing the state is working on is what's called an operator in training. And we've already kind of implemented this here, at least as a position. But an operator in training, according to the state, once this is in the state rules, they will be allowed to test right away. Right now, you cannot test until you have 1 year of experience. What they want to do is flip that around a little bit, let you come in and test right away, get that test under your belt, show your employer that are putting some initiative out there to test. And then instead of doing 1 year of experience and then the test, you can do the test first. You still have to get that 1 year experience. And then when you've been there 1 year, your OIT certification will revert to a level 1 certification. So it's to kind of be that incentive to get people in from the outside and to show at the junior level and to show that boss, that municipal government, that they're a person who really wants to be in water or wastewater, because they were willing to put out the initiative to do a test at the very beginning. It also makes them look more hireable. If I have 2 people come in, one says, I've already passed my OIT, and just need your experience, and someone else comes in and says, I'd like to work as an uncertified operator, and in a year, I may get my level. I'm going to take the person who's already, I'm going to prefer the person who's already taken the test and passed it. So after that, you will see all of our 13 current positions, and you can see the pay, approximate pay, and all of them are based on experience and certifications. So if these numbers are based on having very little experience in that level or being at the kind of the starting level. If somebody comes in with 20 or 30 or 40 years of experience, they could be potentially be a lot higher on the pay scale. But these are all the positions that we currently have open. And like I said, I think it's 13 between water and wastewater. So the main point of this report is that we are in need. We do spend a lot more money than that would be much more beneficial to spend somewhere else. But we're doing it as a need, not a want. And then our goal is to just get these positions out there and provide as many incentives as we can to bring experienced folks in.
So in comparison then, Southern Miller
Yes, sir.
is paying their employees a lot more than what these employees are getting because they're private, right? And they also charge the city for travel and time on the road and all that stuff.
Correct. As part of their contract, so we're, because they don't live here. Now, we did have some Sauterville employees that lived here, so that was nice to get people who were willing to move to Las Vegas. It saved us money, made them actually more available. Not everybody does that. The manager has been living in Espanola for decades. He doesn't want to leave his family, so he drives in. He works while he's driving in. He's on the phone with him when he's coming in. But that is part of our agreement, is because I requested someone who had decades of experience, because I knew where our plan was at, and he needed someone who had decades of experience.
But I can understand your urgency of getting people training. They're able to, in the long run.
It's both. I mean, the other benefit is we bring people up from within who can take over some of these fairly basic jobs that we have Sauterville doing or that I'm doing. Then we can take those off our plate and put them back onto the water treatment plant employees' plate, even if they're level 1 or level 2. The level 4 is the must-have by the state of New Mexico. And I think it's 2 is a minimum requirement. Because you always have to have someone available in case somebody gets sick or is on vacation. So you always have to have another level 4. But I've also seen recommendations for having twice that number at a facility our size, because we're over 10,000 people and we are one of the systems that has the highest type of technology.
Especially now that you're going to be getting some new materials in.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be one of our challenges is when we're working with the engineers, we cannot have them over-design a system. Design a system that we can't operate. So that's one of the requirements that's given to the engineer is look at our water quality and look at what we need. But as you design the system, you need to look at the staffing that we have and design the system that can run right now by 4 or 5 single plates. So and what that means is, so there's without making this meeting a 10-hour long meeting,
No.
There is reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
There is membrane filtration. There is slow sand filtration. There is UV. There's a lot of different technologies that can be used to disinfect and treat water to drinking water standards. Some of them are more maintenance intensive than others. If you have a limited staff, you want the least maintenance intensive because you have few people to handle everything. So if it is something that does require 6 or 7 people to maintain, we can't sustain that. Not right now. If we're fully staffed, we could. But if we can look at the technologies and blend those two together, the technology and the operator capability, and so we may not build it, the engineer may not design it, and that's going to be part of the PDR. We're going to be required to say, this is what you need. These are the potential treatment trains, but you have 4 or 5 city employees. You're not going to be able to do this system with that few employees. If you want this system, you need to get 10 more employees. But you can do this system with 5, you can do this system with 4. And that'll be part of their presentation to us, and then our decision making will be, don't accept the system if we can't operate
But you don't want to compromise quality.
without compromising quality. You're going to have to look at both. And all of those systems, depending on how they're designed, can treat water. Just depends on the chemicals used and the time frame. But that's one of the requirements for the engineers that do the PDR. The next presentation, and I'll try and go quicker on this one because I think I've been talking a while already. I was asked to give a presentation on the project management process. So when a project is, when we know there's going to be a project, it starts off with the division. The division manager or senior staff will meet with project management and go, okay, this is our issue. We need a solution to this issue. So they'll develop the basis of the scope. Then we'll get with an engineer and have the engineer help fine tune that scope so that the engineer can then take it and say, okay, this is the cost for us to plan and design it, and this would be the cost to construct it. That way we now have the concept. It's been vetted by the engineer and the operations staff. It's critical that the operations staff, whether it's a distribution, a water line, whether it's wastewater or water treatment plant or gas, that the professionals in that field are involved from day one. And they're usually the ones that bring it to project management and say, we have this issue. Gas said we have an issue up in Colmar. We need to be able to regulate the pressure. And then they work with project management to be able to come up with a proper project between operations and engineering. Once you have that cost estimate, then you can go out for funding. Are we going to be able to do this within the city budget? Or are we going to have to request funding? So that's the next step. And then you make a decision. Do we need to acquire funds before we move forward anymore? Do we have enough funds to plan and design? And we'll take the next step, which goes into planning. And those are site visits. That's where there's boots on the ground operations. Again, operations and engineers work side by side. The operators know what they need, at least what they need addressed, and the engineers will look at the technology available to address that issue. Once we go into design, we require 4 different levels of design, 30, 60, 90, and 100. That's because after each step, they come back to the operations and project management and anybody else involved, which many times is Construction Programs Bureau, the Environment Department, to make sure that we're progressing in the right direction. We want to catch issues early and not late. So we don't go straight to 100%. 30, 60, 90 comments after every design review so that we're producing the solution for basically the customer, which would be the manager of the division, at a cost that division can afford. After the design is at 100%, we'll take them out to bid. Again, engineer, Construction Programs Bureau, lawyer, procurement officer, finance, and city manager all review bid documents. They're not reviewed by just the operations staff. Because we're looking for is it legally a proper format? Does it meet procurement requirements? Do we have the money? Finance will not let it move forward unless we explain and show for certain where the money's coming from. And there's always the final review and approval by the city manager. Once the bid documents are good, then we take it out for bid, and that's where the plan, the scope of work, the documents are all provided for contractors to bid on or propose on. Usually when it comes to a particular price, it's not a service, it's an installation we want to bid. So we want a fixed cost. We want to know how much it's going to cost to install in accordance with the engineer. The engineer will take a look at the bid documents and make their recommendation. Can this contractor do this work? Do they have the proper certifications? Did they mess up on their bid? And then we need to pull the bid because of missing documents. The city also reviews it. Construction Program Bureau reviews it. They review everything that has anything to do with funding. If there's a funding involved, Construction Program Bureau reviews it. They will not let a project go through that does not have the proper state and or federal documents and that it does not meet engineering review. So we get an outside review on our plans. And then project management will put an evaluation panel together made up of project management staff and the division that is asking for that project so that they can look at the evaluate the proposal and see if there's anything that and see if there's anything that's missing, if they have any questions or concerns, if we need to stop the project, or and then the evaluation panel will make a recommendation. That recommendation is then taken to council for award. They bring it to me, I present it to council based on what project management and the division have recommended, and construction programs bureau. After the council has awarded it, then there's the construction phase, which is contracts, making sure that we do proper procurement for the funding. So the funding's already been set aside. Now we have to do the requisitions to get purchase orders. Then the contractor will order materials, make sure they're scheduling all their subcontractors. Sometimes the project is placed on hold at that point because right now many of the materials orders are taking months. Yes, and so when a contract is signed, there is a time frame in that contract that says you have 180, 360 days, whatever, to complete this project. So the contractor is not going to want that clock to keep counting when they're not doing anything. So they will order all the materials, they will prove they've ordered all the materials, and then they can request to stop the clock. That again goes to the engineer, project management, goes to the city manager, so we stop the clock, so we're not eating away at the time that they actually need to install the materials. Once the materials come in, then we'll start the clock again.
Well, the bad part about that too is that we were discussing for the meeting, the prices change. If you wait too long, things go up.
So that's
Because of the gas.
right, and that's one of the reasons all our bids, we have 30 days from the time we take a bid to where we have to award it. If we do not award it within 30 days, it's basically like we didn't award it, we have to do it again. And that's one reason is because I don't think it was a big deal before, but it is now. You're absolutely right. The prices will change within 30 days. But the vendor has a responsibility to account for that. There are exceptional times when they say, look, we got a quote for $10,000. And then 3 weeks later, after we've signed contracts and they've ordered it, they get a letter from the vendor saying, our price went up. We have to charge you $15,000. The contractor will bring that to us. And we'll do a change order. But they have to prove to us that it wasn't them that raised the price. It was, and we'll only pay for the increase. But it has to be approved. Yeah, we don't ever want our contractors to eat costs because of something outside of their control. If it's inside their control, that's their fault. But if it's outside of their control because somebody raised the price on them, we're gonna try and work with them. And funding agencies are working with us on that as well. So during construction, we do have observation. We do have observation, and observation is provided by specialists in the field. It can be the engineer that observes, it can be city staff that observe. It can be a combination of both. And many times we'll want people from the division that's receiving the service to be part of the observation. Again, they're going to accept it once it's all done. It's a water line, belongs to Travis when it's all done. So he needs to be aware of where the valves went, what the connections were like, how did they vet it. So he'll also be involved, he or whoever manager will be involved in observation. We also do project status meetings so that we're not letting anything wait and then get us all behind. So depending on the length of the project, that can be weekly or monthly. Some projects are really short, so you basically don't even have a meeting. You do a kickoff, and then within a week the project's done. Many of our projects that are funded are 6 months to a year. 6 months of construction. They can be 6 months to a year in projects. Those involve all levels. The funding agency will be there, construction programs bureau will be there, the engineer will be there, contractor, city staff, all of them will be at those meetings. Everybody that has something to do with the project needs to be there to provide them. And we'll do those on site. We'll have construction program staff on site. We do provide PSAs for anything that's going to impact the public. Invoicing is a big thing because when we talk about these funding agencies, we do not get any money back from NMFA until the money has been spent. So if a contractor does work, submits their invoice, the invoice gets approved by Construction Programs Bureau, engineer, and city, and it goes through the normal process and gets sent over to finance for payment. They cut a check to the vendor. That's a month-long process. After we cut the check to the vendor, our staff would provide to NMFA proof that that check was cut. That's when NMFA sends us money. So I know this has been a question by a lot of people. How do we know that if NMFA gives us $2 million for a project, then it actually went to that project? This is how we know. We have to send the invoice and proof of payment to NMFA before they'll give us money. So we say we've spent $500,000 in this invoice, and they'll say, all right, we verified it, we did your numbers, the engineer signed off on it, the contractor signed off on it, everybody signed off, the city manager signed off on it, you guys paid $500,000, we will now reimburse you. They, in the projects we do, for the most part, they don't pay in advance. Every now and then there is a situation where they will pay in advance. ARPA funds, federal funds were one of those. They came from the federal government to the state, to the city. A certain amount of money was made. We allocated it to certain projects. And so what we did for accountability was we got a cost estimate to each project. We created a line item for each project. We put that exact amount of money in each line item. So finance knows we're doing 5 projects. Each one is this price. As the invoices come in, they'll count down the money, and that's all we have allocated to this project. So we always make sure that there are multiple eyes on the invoicing going in, as well as getting reimbursed or paid. And I've come across it a few times. People ask why I don't spend, or I did have somebody ask me, you have money for Taylor Wellfield, why don't you spend it on the water line in my front yard? Can't. It's for Taylor Wellfield. That's the only place we can spend it. And it's not like they give us the money. They look to see if you have an invoice that says Taylor Wellfield, the approved contractor, because they know who was approved to work on it, and make sure that all the appropriate signatures on it. And again, proof of payment. So we get reimbursed. We don't get paid for it. Closeout. As the project gets to the end of the work, we'll do a substantial completion and a final completion. Substantial completion is just that. Is the majority of the work done? Are there, and that's again, multiple people involved, city, contractor, engineer, construction programs bureau. Almost every project develops a punch list. The punch list is this manhole lid is cracked, this valve needs to be replaced, maybe some small things that can be done within a day or so. And we'll have that punch list that they'll have to take care of within usually 30 days for final completion. Once there's final completion, there's usually closeout documents that are required before the vendor can get his last check. As-bills, any documents required by Construction Programs Bureau, the final invoice, and most projects do have a 1-year follow-up warranty walkthrough. So 1 year after the closeout of the project, everybody will come back together, walk the project, and see if there was any warranty issue that we can address. So that is the project management process, and attached to your document there is a list of the current active projects. So I can go over that when we get to project status. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
Any advice on those 2 presentations other than short them?
I gotta,
I think I have 10 minutes.
I gotta work that kind of matches the one that you were using a while ago.
What's that?
Modified.
Oh, you created one too?
Yeah.
Modified I.
I need to ask too also, is awardment.
So I have always used awardment as a word in this context only. And it is not a word, but I still use it.
That's what I thought.
So every time I type it into Word, it argues with me. But that is,
I mean, it sounds appropriate, but it's not.
Council awards, or we take it for award bids. I refuse, I know that's not a real word, but I'm gonna keep using it. I like that.
Well, it conveys the meaning, which you may not be aware of, that's gonna be the meaning.
I will call, Webster.
Yeah, and insert that word as the award of the year. I was gonna say, yeah, it needs to be shortened, but yet it will lose some of the flavor.
I think the report, I'll have to find a way to shorten the report. I think that was one that took a lot longer. Project management.
Right. But I'm saying, you know, if it does lose its flavor, and if people don't ask questions, then you'd be okay to. For the
Okay.
All right.
Sounds like you're fine.
Okay,
All right, let's move
give everybody
on
on, magnifying glass. Yes, sir.
to committee recommendation for approval, recommendation for approval to purchase non-transport trailers for solid waste division.
So solid waste had a trailer catch fire, and it burnt and it was total. Insurance did give us, I think 58,000 towards a new trailer. We asked, that's the trailers that haul the, waste to Wagon Mount. We absolutely need those trailers. So we found one that we could replace that burnt trailer with, and we did, the funds are in the solid waste budget.
Can I make a motion that we recommend for approval the purchase of the trailer, transport trailer?
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion by Rudy, a second by Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, number 2, recommendation for approval of addendum number 2 to contract 3729-20 with JJ and Son Excavation.
They've been under contract, let's see, since 2021, and so it's the end of an annual, so we just want to extend their contract.
So it's just an addendum, right?
Yes,
That's already been approved, so.
contract was approved on April.
I make a motion that we continue to expand that, on that approval, addendum number 2.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion by Rudy, a second by Mike Smithy, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, number 3 has to do with another addendum, recommendation for approval of addendum number 1 to contract 3875-22 with the Master Touch LLC to provide billing, printing, and mailing services for the state.
Are they doing it at the present?
They are doing it at the present time. This will be their first addendum for their second series. I think they did 4 years for us already. So this will be year 6. First 4 years was under one contract. This will be year 2 under a second contract. And they've been doing all the billing.
Sorry to be.
Where's Master Stokes?
Hmm?
Where's Master Stokes?
They're out of Washington State, I think. Washington State or Oregon. They provided, everything's done electronically. So they get all of our data electronically, and then they send it to the printer. They print it and mail it out. We originally took this out for a contract, and they had the lowest bid. Or they had the best proposal. And it was an RFP, so they had the best proposal.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with recommendation for approval of addendum number 1 to contract 3875-22 with the Master Touch LLC. By billing, implementing, etc.
I second that motion. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike Sweeney, a second by Rudy, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Number 4, recommendation for approval of addendum number 1 to contract 3904-22 with Suina Design and Architecture.
So Suina is a company that we did go under contract for architectural engineering services. I don't believe we've used them for anything yet, but we would like to keep them under contract as we may have some work for them to do.
But this would be addendum, they've already been with us.
This would be addendum number one, so they've been with us for 1 year. We had them under contract for 1 year, this is the beginning of year 2.
Usually the addendum, usually their scope of service is 4 years.
So
That's what you recommend?
the contract is renewable up to 4 years, it depends on the language of the contract, most of the contracts will say renewable up to 4 years. So the first year is technically the first contract, and then addendum 1 is the first addendum after the first year. So there's 3 addendums following the first year of the contract. Clear as mud.
Yeah, no, that's clear.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead with recommendation for approval of addendum number 1. Contract 3904-22 with Clean Design and Architecture for architectural and engineering services that is needed for the city of Los Angeles.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike Sweeney, a second by Rudy, all in favor,
All right,
opposed? All right, number 5, recommendation for approval to award RFP number 2023-10 for water distribution planning, design and construction phase engineering services to Mosen Corbin and Sutter Miller and Associates.
So we did put out a request for proposals, and we did have, we had 4 respondents to this proposal: Stantec, Bohannon, Houston, Sutter Miller, and Mosen Corbin. We did have 5 evaluators look at all 4 proposals, and the 2 highest ranked ones were Mosen Corbin and Sutter Miller. I don't think we need any more than 2. Between those 2 entities, they've been able to carry most of the load for engineering, for water distribution services. So, some of them, like Mosen, was already doing some work for distribution. They had to stop it in between contracts. And so they do have good experience, and they've already worked for many decades on our distribution system. So we're requesting to award this to both Mosen Corbin and Southern Illinois.
So the people that did the evaluation will be pretty much unbiased.
I believe all of them in this case were project managers. Do you know who else set it on? They try and sometimes have 1 year guys.
Oh, okay, but they don't work with Southern Miller, right?
Oh, no, not allowed. Absolutely not allowed. That would be a huge violation, so.
What I'm saying is, since Southern Miller is entrenched with these people that are.
They're not allowed to sit in on any of the city's decision making, they only manage the facility.
Yeah.
So when it comes to things like this, that's all done by city staff. But this is distribution anyway, so not treated as distribution.
And they've been briefed about what the nature of what they're doing, how important it is to be independent and not biased.
Cool.
The people that were evaluating,
Well,
did somebody brief them on?
they do go through a process when they're explained how they're gonna evaluate, but again, it's all city staff, so there's a supervisor for Travis and then project management staff.
You can tell. Okay.
They're required to look at the proposals as provided.
Yeah.
They are given a checklist, and so this is what you're ranking them on: the capacity and capability, your past record of performance, the familiarity with Las Vegas, current volume of work. If there are any certifications required, they do get a resident or veteran's preference. And if there's any specialized services, they have to provide documentation. So when they give them the proposal, each evaluator is given a checklist of this is what you're evaluating.
Mr. Sweeney, do you want to make the motion? Chairman, I make the motion that we recommend for approval for award RFP 2023-10 for water distribution planning and design and construction phase engineering services to Mosen Corbin and Southern Miller and Associates. Miller, right?
Would you like to second that?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Rudy, a second by Mike Sweeney, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Discussion items.
So a summary of monthly report, I'm still working on some of it, so I will go over what I do have. Department managers have already met and we discussed the draft budget for FY '24. Customer service, I believe, was completed over 400 work orders this last month, 45 line locates, and then over 11,000 meters. They're continuing to work with customers on delinquencies and graphs. Just a reminder, at this time of year, usually between, I think it's November and at the end of March, we cannot shut anybody off for gas, shut anybody's gas off unless we've gone through several, there's several stipulations before we're allowed to shut people off. Just generally, you're not allowed to shut people off for gas. But we do work with people on payments, and they have to make a concerted effort to pay. If they just continue to refuse to pay, then we can have both forward to shut somebody off. Our goal is to work with people and not shut people off. Wastewater, they're currently working on replacing several pieces of equipment that were damaged in the power outage in December. They had a power panel, pumps, pit control, some pit level controller, damage due to a power surge, I believe. And we've also had some other things working on. There's a broken sludge valve at the base of the digester. So they have some temporary equipment installed, a submersible pump to try and pump out that sludge. Doesn't work well when everything's frozen. And did have some high aluminum and high E. coli discharges in January that were reported in February. We're currently working with the Environment Department and EPA on E. coli is a normal discharge to the river. It just depends on how high those levels are. So we did have some exceedances, and mostly due to the equipment that is not currently operational. So we've got several task orders and jobs out there to get all of these pieces of equipment replaced. We also submitted all of these to our insurance. We did contact P&M and asked them to consider addressing this. They said it wasn't them. It was powerful. They said it wasn't them. And so we sent it to our insurance, and we'll let our insurance find it out. P&M. Water treatment plants, working on environmental department with some pipe turbidity challenges. We did take filter 3 offline. We did have a notice of violation in February for exceeding the 1 MTU. I have staff verifying, I think it was for like 15 minutes. So it was a very short period of time. And we put this in the PSA that we put out to the public. But it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes or 5 hours. In the sense that we do have to report it to the community. It's already been reported to the Environment Department. They've been aware of it. They give us 30 days to put a notice in the optic at the time that we receive a violation. So we're currently working on getting that into the optic. Gas completed their normal odorant inspections. Distribution completed their PBRB check, but these are offline right now. But they did do some repairs on South Pacific, Bernalillo, East Drive, and Delgado. And they're working on, we have to do a service line inventory. We have to inventory all the service lines in the city of Las Vegas. That's 7,000 plus service lines. And so Travis's group is working on the checklist, the questionnaire for that. And then we're going to work on how we're going to physically inspect 7,000 plus service lines in the city of Las Vegas.
Let me ask a question on that, Travis. There's no problems with water pressure on Alamo streets off the city. So, but I guess all my other outlets work fine except the kitchen. The kitchen was barely.
Well, also.
I didn't think there was water pressure because if everything else is working fine.
The screens can easily get some mineral buildup in them.
So then leads into my next question: is the water okay?
We just so you know, we have been getting some reports of discolored water. What happens is when we have either higher disinfectant rates and or higher flush rates, inside of pipe you have minerals that build up. Our water has minerals in it, and it just as it sits in the pipes, it just tends to create buildup inside the pipe. And so as you flush it or as you introduce additional disinfectant, it can loosen that up. And that's where you'll see discolored water. So, call us when you have discolored water. Call us when you have discolored water and we'll flush it. We'll also send somebody by, if necessary, to do chlorine residual tests to show if there is disinfectant in the water. Our system again will shut down if it's over 0.3 NTUs, which is very low NTU. You would never even visually be able to see a 0.3 NTU. So when we're getting colored water, it's not coming from the plant. It's 100% is coming from the minerals that are being dislodged from the pipe.
Another thing, if you have your water shut off or the neighborhood has their water shut off, like the city or something, and that water just kind of, the settlement, when they let that go after they fix the leak or something, will go to places where, where it will end up, like at your tap or something like that.
Yeah.
Or your toilet will get sediment in it or something. That's just the way it happens when you turn off the pipe.
So, yeah.
And most of that is going to be mineral buildup or stuff. It's not mud. It's not. Solid waste, they did give me the report, but I haven't had a chance to input it yet. I will update that. And then we've already discussed that we have 13 water wastewater positions. I'm working on the rest of this for tomorrow. Project status, since I've already taken all of your time, I will say if you have any particular questions, I'm going to cover the top 2 or 3 projects I know a lot of people were asking about, which is Hot Springs and Independence, Baca, and Parkview. So high level, Hannah Park, Hannah Park, all the line is in, we're waiting for there's a repair to the seal at City Hall that has to be done so that we can pressurize the system so that we can actually pump to Hannah Park and do the final test. So that one is in substantial completion, but not final, pending a VFD work and the seal. Hot Springs sewer line is substantially complete. That was substantially completed as of February 17th, so the final completion is March 17th. They had some final stuff to do with the manhole and everything character. So Independent sewer line, they're down to 1 manhole to install. Substantial completion is scheduled at the end of March, with final completion the end of April or beginning of May. Road patching is pending.
What about Hot Springs?
So Hot Springs is done, substantially complete. Are you talking about road work?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Streets has acquired funding to pave a portion of Hot Springs, which is not the entire area. We've already done excavating, so we're working with a contractor or someone else will pave outside of where Streets is going to be paving. But where Streets already has a project, we don't want to spend money that's going to get torn up. So we're gonna try and find a balance there so that we do pave what needs to be paved, but we don't put money down that we're never get torn up. Hopefully in the next couple months when they redo the Hot Springs Boulevard record paving job.
That makes sense.
But I know the challenge has been, it's been closed for a long time. It was a long sewer line project. It was a deep sewer line project. So for safety reasons, it was slow progress on that. But that one is actually complete. So Hot Springs is open. In the Hot Springs, so that the Hot Springs water line is the next project, but that'll be on the shoulder, more on the edge of the curving area on the shoulder, and so we should still have access of Hot Springs. And that is currently on hold. They did install PRV, but that's currently on hold. We did receive verbal confirmation from DOT on the permit approval, and so they were able to get with the subcontractor to do the bore, but they can't schedule that until mid-April. So, like we discussed before, we're not going to have a clock run, and it runs out of time on the contractor. The project is on hold. About a week or so before the sub is supposed to be here, they'll come back out. They'll dig the 2 bore pits and work on installing water line while the contractor is doing the bore, so that they do both portions of the job at the same time. There's not enough time to do them. They need to do them at the same time. So that one's going on. That one we don't expect to impact the roadway. There might be a lane closure because they're going to have to bore. They're going to be bored at an angle across hills. So the bore pits will be off the roadway, but they will probably still have cones and some equipment in the roadway, so there might be a couple of lane closures. Baca is, we're doing some tie-ins, I believe, today, so the pressure tests go back to you, and we're working on a valve as well. Okay. So today was the valve, basically. Okay. So the valve for today, so that they can do the tie-in and the pressure test and back to test tomorrow. The service tie-ins, so that meant we're trying to minimize impacts to customers. The tie-in, major tie-in for each individual customer won't happen until March 15th and 17th during Robinson's spring break. So we don't want to interrupt Robinson. Well, I scheduled it for the 15th to the 17th.
Oh, yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Parkview, there were some needs for some yokes. To order the yokes would have taken 8 months. And so the contractor was working with Travis on an alternative. I guess they were looking at being able to build their own yokes. And so they were going to get with Travis and see what his thoughts were on that, because he gets what he wants in this case. So if he says no, then we're gonna have to wait the 8 months for the yokes.
The yoke item is basically a cradle inside your reader setting that holds your reader in place.
Let's see, so that's basically what we're on, an 8 month delay. That was as of December, so
That's why eggs are so
Parkview-
expensive.
Parkview won't be done until August.
Yolks are why eggs are so expensive.
Some big yolks, make your own. And then I'll tell you at a high level, we're working on several sewer line projects. Keene Street suspended pipe that's leaking, we need to get that replaced. Chem Drive, we're replacing a sewer line there. New Mexico Avenue from Rio River to Valencia, that's actually a water line. We're doing a drop inlet at Rosenwald, drop in at Keene Street. We're doing a manhole relocation at Luna and the Luna Hill sewer line and manhole replacements. And some sewer work at New Mexico and Perez. So those several projects were funded under ARPA funds. We're excited, we've got a lot of projects going. And those are just the ones that are really underway right now. Any questions?
Yes. You know, just one question. What is the numbers that I'm looking at are, you know, for the building of the treatment plants, et cetera, they are in the millions of dollars, right?
Correct. That should be on here as well.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. You know, like 6 million, 5 million, 50 million, 60 million.
The 6 million and the 5 million are cost estimates for sediment removal systems, one in the canyon, one at Story. The water treatment facility is estimated at 50 million, and the indirect potable reuse advanced treatment facility is approximately 6 million. We've already received 2.6 million to do the planning and design for the 2 sediment removal systems, the PERs for the water treatment facility and the advanced treatment wastewater facility.
Okay, are there any announcements? Okay, I have a member comment myself. I thought that your report was very well put together and very well said.
If
But it's still.
you know anybody, there's still the operators.
Well, all right, let's see. Let's entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn this meeting.
Adjourned at 3:10 p.m.
Sorry, Shawnee.
The way she put batteries because she could.